Welcome, my dear friends. Today, you are going to listen to a story that can change the way you think, the way you act, and the way you live your life. This story is not just for improving your English. This story is for improving your mindset. Because today, you will learn one powerful truth that successful people understand deeply. Attitude is everything. So listen carefully, because this story might change you forever. 3 years ago, Daniel was a person who believed that life was against him. He was not poor, he was not sick, and he was not alone. But inside his mind, he felt defeated. He believed he was unlucky. He believed other people were naturally confident and successful, but he was not. Every morning, he woke up with the same negative thoughts, and every night, he went to sleep with the same disappointments. His life was not terrible, but it was not growing either. It was stuck. Daniel worked in a large company as a junior assistant. His job was simple. He organized files, answered emails, and followed instructions. He never gave his opinion because he believed his opinion did not matter. He never spoke more than necessary because he believed his voice was not important. In meetings, he sat quietly while others shared ideas confidently. Sometimes, he had good ideas, but his negative attitude stopped him before he could speak. His mind always told him, "You are not good enough." One day, something happened that made him even more frustrated. A new employee joined the company. His name was Victor. Victor was not more intelligent than Daniel. He was not more experienced either. But Victor had something Daniel did not have. Victor had a powerful attitude. Victor spoke confidently. Victor asked questions. Victor smiled even when he made mistakes. And within a few months, Victor was promoted. Daniel could not understand it. He felt angry. He felt jealous. He told himself life was unfair. That evening, Daniel went home and sat alone in his room. His mind was full of negative thoughts. He blamed his boss. He blamed his luck. He blamed his life. But deep inside, he felt tired. He felt tired of feeling weak. He felt tired of feeling invisible. A few days later, Daniel visited his grandfather. His grandfather was a wise man who had lived a long and difficult life. When his grandfather saw Daniel's face, he immediately knew something was wrong. He asked Daniel what was troubling him. Daniel explained everything. He explained how others were moving forward while he was standing still. He explained how he felt unlucky and incapable. His grandfather listened quietly and then asked him a simple question. He asked, "Daniel, do you believe you can change your life?" Daniel answered honestly. He said, "No." His grandfather smiled gently and said, That is your problem. Your life will never change until your attitude changes. Daniel was confused. He did not understand how attitude could change anything. His grandfather continued and said, "Your attitude controls your actions, and your actions control your future. If your attitude is weak, your actions will be weak. If your attitude is strong, your actions will be strong." Those words stayed in Daniel's mind. The next morning, Daniel woke up and looked at himself in the mirror. For the first time, he noticed his posture. His shoulders were down. His face looked tired. His eyes looked hopeless. He realized his body was reflecting his attitude. At that moment, he decided to experiment. He stood straight. He lifted his head. He looked into his own eyes and said, "Maybe I can change." That day, something small but important happened. When he went to work, he greeted his coworkers with a smile. It was a small action, but it felt different. Some coworkers smiled back. This gave him a small feeling of confidence. In a meeting later that day, Daniel had an idea. Normally, he would stay silent. But this time, his attitude pushed him. His voice was slightly nervous, but he spoke. His idea was simple, but his manager nodded and said it was useful. That moment changed something inside Daniel. He realized his voice had value. From that day, Daniel started changing small things. He stopped saying, "I can't." He started saying, "I will try." He stopped avoiding challenges. He started accepting them. He stopped seeing problems as enemies. He started seeing them as teachers. This new attitude slowly started changing his behavior. He became more active. He became more confident. He became more visible. But his biggest test came one day when his manager asked him to lead a small project. The old Daniel would have refused. The old Daniel would have said he was not ready. But the new Daniel said yes. The project was not easy. There were problems. There were mistakes. There were moments when Daniel felt fear again. But his new attitude did not allow him to quit. Instead of saying, "This is too hard," he said, "This is making me stronger." He worked every day. He learned every day. He improved every day. Finally, the project was completed successfully. His manager called him into the office and said, "Daniel, I am proud of you. You have changed." Those words meant more to Daniel than anything else. Over the next year, Daniel's life transformed. He was promoted. He became a leader. He helped others who felt the same fear he once felt. But the biggest victory was not his promotion. The biggest victory was his attitude. One evening, Daniel stood in front of the mirror again. But this time, he saw a different person. He saw strength. He saw confidence. He saw belief. He realized something powerful. Nothing outside had changed first. Everything inside had changed first. And that inner change had changed everything else. Daniel understood a truth he would never forget. Your attitude is not just a small part of your life. Your attitude is your life. Because attitude decides whether you move forward or stay stuck. Attitude decides whether you grow or remain the same. Attitude decides whether you win or lose. And from that day forward, Daniel lived with one belief. No matter what happens, I will keep a strong attitude. Because attitude is everything. But Daniel's journey did not end there. In fact, the real test of his attitude had not even begun. Success is easy to handle when everything goes right, but attitude shows its true power when everything starts to fall apart again. A few months after his promotion, the company announced a major project. It was the biggest project of the year, and Daniel was chosen to lead a small team. When his manager told him the news, Daniel felt proud, but he also felt fear deep inside his chest. This was different. Before, he was responsible only for his own work. Now he was responsible for others too. If he failed, it would not just be his failure. It would be the team's failure. That night, Daniel could not sleep. Negative thoughts tried to return. His old voice whispered, "You are not good enough. You will fail. People will see your weakness." He stared at the ceiling in the darkness, feeling the pressure growing heavier. But then he remembered his grandfather's words. Your attitude is your real boss. Daniel sat up in his bed and took a deep breath. He said quietly to himself, I am not the same person anymore. I will not run away. I will face this. The next morning, Daniel walked into the office with a calm face, even though inside he still felt nervous. He called his team together and spoke honestly. He said, I know this project is important, and I know it will be difficult. I don't have all the answers, but I promise one thing. I will give my best attitude every single day. And I want all of us to support each other. His team looked at him with respect. They did not see fear. They saw honesty and strength. And slowly, they began to trust him. The first week was full of problems. Deadlines were tight. Clients made sudden changes. One team member made a serious mistake that cost them time. Daniel felt frustration rising inside him. The old Daniel would have shouted. He would have blamed someone. But this time, he stopped himself. He took a deep breath and said, mistakes happen. Let's focus on solutions. His team was surprised. Instead of fear, they felt motivated. Instead of hiding problems, they started solving them faster. But then something happened that Daniel did not expect. 2 weeks before the final deadline, the client rejected their progress. They said the work was not good enough. Daniel's heart sunk when he heard those words. It felt like a knife cutting his confidence. His team looked at him, waiting for his reaction. In that moment, Daniel had a choice. He could lose his attitude, or he could protect it. He excused himself and went to the restroom. He looked at himself in the mirror. For a moment, he saw the old Daniel again. The tired, negative, defeated person. But then he remembered everything he had learned. He remembered the rain that day. He remembered his grandfather's voice. He remembered how far he had come. He looked into his own eyes and said, "This is not the end. This is the test." He washed his face, stood straight, and walked back to his team. He smiled and said, "This is not failure. This is feedback. We still have time. We will improve." His calm attitude changed the energy in the room. Instead of panic, there was determination. For the next 2 weeks, Daniel and his team worked harder than ever before. They stayed late. They helped each other. Daniel encouraged everyone every single day. He did not let negativity enter his mind. And slowly, their work improved. The final day arrived. Daniel presented the project to the client. His hands were slightly shaking, but his voice was steady. He spoke with confidence, not because he was perfect, but because his attitude was strong. When he finished, the room was silent. Those few seconds felt like hours. Then the client smiled. He said, "This is excellent work." Daniel felt a wave of relief and joy. His team had done it. They had succeeded. That evening, Daniel went home and sat alone in his room. He thought about everything that had happened. He realized something important. The success was not just about the project. It was about the person he had become. His attitude had changed his fear into courage. His attitude had changed his problems into opportunities. His attitude had changed his life. The next day, something unexpected happened. A young employee named Kevin came to Daniel and said, "Sir, can I ask you something?" Daniel smiled and said, "Of course." Kevin said, "How do you stay so positive? I feel like giving up sometimes." Daniel saw himself in Kevin. He remembered those days when he felt weak and lost. He put his hand on Kevin's shoulder and said, "I was not always like this. I changed when I understood one simple truth. Attitude is everything. You cannot control everything in life, but you can control how you respond. From that day, Daniel became more than a manager. He became a mentor. He started helping others change their attitude. He shared his story. He encouraged people. And as he helped others grow, he grew even stronger himself. Months later, Daniel visited his grandfather again. They sat together outside the small house, watching the sunset. Daniel said, "Grandfather, you were right. Attitude changed my life." His grandfather smiled gently and said, "No, Daniel. You changed your life. Attitude was just the tool." Daniel looked at the orange sky and felt peace in his heart. He knew now that life would always bring challenges. There would be failures, losses, and difficult days. But he was not afraid anymore. Because he had something powerful inside him. He had the right attitude. Years later, Daniel became one of the most respected leaders in the company. People admired his skills, but more than that, they admired his attitude. They admired his calmness in problems. They admired his positivity in difficult times. They admired his belief. But Daniel never forgot where he started. He never forgot the weak, negative boy he once was. And he never forgot the lesson that saved him. One evening, Daniel stood in front of a group of new employees. He shared his story. He said, "I was once the most negative person you could imagine. I blamed everything. I feared everything. I doubted everything. But one day, I learned that my attitude was the key. And when I changed my attitude, I changed my life." The room was silent. Everyone was listening carefully. Daniel smiled and said, "Your attitude will decide your future. Not your past. Not your failures. Not your fears. Only your attitude." That night, Daniel walked home under the quiet sky. The city lights were shining, and the air felt calm. He stopped for a moment and looked up. He smiled. He knew the truth now. Life had not become easier. But he had become stronger. And that made all the difference. He remembered the rainy day when everything began. He remembered the boy who wanted to give up. And he felt proud that he did not. Because he understood something most people never understand. Your attitude is not just a reaction. It is a decision. And that decision can change everything. So, if you are listening to this story right now, remember Daniel. Remember that your attitude is more powerful than your circumstances. You may feel weak today. You may feel lost. You may feel like nothing is working. But your story is not finished. You can decide your attitude right now. You can decide to stand up. You can decide to believe. And when you do, your life will begin to change in ways you never imagined. Because in the end, attitude is not just everything. It is the one thing that makes everything possible. If you enjoyed this story and want to improve your English and your life, make sure to subscribe to the channel and join this learning journey with us. And watch the next story on your screen to continue improving your English.